Ethan Carter sat alone inside a small metal cabin on the edge of Titan's surface. The cabin shook softly with the winds outside. It was always cold, always dark. He liked it that way. Far from Earth, far from the noise, far from people. He had built this place himself after retiring from his job as an engineer. Life had been quiet here. Until now. That morning, the sensors in his small comm station started blinking. He hadn't seen that light in years. It meant a signal was coming. Through. He put down his cup of hot tea and walked over to the dusty console. The screen flickered. Static filled the air, then a voice broke through. "I came for you, my old friend." Ethan froze. The voice was strange, yet familiar. A soft, deep tone. It was not human, but he knew it. Somewhere deep in his memory, he had heard it before. He quickly pressed buttons, trying to trace the signal. The computer showed the source. It was close. Too close. Orbiting Titan. No way, he whispered. He sat back in the chair, staring at the screen. His hands trembled a little. Memories started coming back. The war. The ship. The strange alien who saved his life years ago. Her name was Mira. She had red eyes, pale skin, and a strange beauty that didn't belong to this world. She was not like the other aliens they fought. She helped him, but she had disappeared. They all thought she died during the last battle. He remembered seeing her ship fall into the black clouds of Orion's belt dot. So how could she be here now? The signal came again. "Ethan, I know you hear me. Open the skyport." His fingers moved on their own. He unlocked the skyport door and turned on the beacon. A red light shot into the sky. He stepped outside, wearing his thick coat and mask. The sky above Titan was filled with black clouds. A few stars peeked through. Then he saw it, a silver ship. Small and sleek, cut through the clouds like a knife. It was shaped like a bird, smooth and silent. It made no sound as it landed on the pad just outside his cabin. Steam hissed. The ramp lowered. And then she walked out. Nyra. She looked almost the same. Tall, graceful, with long black hair and red eyes that glowed faintly. Her skin was pale like moonlight. She wore a long coat made of strange metal that shimmered in the cold light. But there were scars on her face now. Faint lines that told stories of battle, of pain, of time past. Ethan didn't speak. He couldn't. She stepped closer. Her eyes met his. "It's been 23 Earth years," she said. "But I knew you'd still be alive. I thought you were." "Dead," Ethan finally said. "I was close," she replied. "But I held on, because I made a promise." A promise? To you? Ethan didn't know what to say. His mind was full of questions, memories, feelings he had buried long ago. Why now? He asked. Nyra looked at the sky for a moment, then back at him. Because something old is waking up. Something we fought long ago. It remembers us. And it wants to finish what it started. Ethan took a slow breath. The cold air burned in his lungs. He looked at her face, and in her eyes, he saw something that made his heart sink. Fear. "Come inside," he said. They walked into the cabin. He poured her a cup of tea, though he didn't know if she still drank it. She held the cup, warming her fingers. "You've changed," he said. "So have you." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the wind howled. "What is it, Nyra? What's coming?" "A memory," she said. "One the galaxy tried to forget, but it's still alive. And it's hungry." Ethan looked out the window into the endless dark. He knew peace never lasted. And now, his past had returned with red eyes and a warning. He didn't know what was coming. But he knew one thing for sure. He would not face it alone. The small cabin was quiet. The only sound was the low hum of the heater. Ethan sat on one side of the table. Nyra sat on the other, her red eyes glowing softly in the dim light. The old wooden table between them felt like a wall. So much time had passed. So many questions were still in Ethan's mind. You said something is waking up, Ethan said. What is it? Naira looked down at her hands. Her fingers were long and graceful, but her nails were sharp. She didn't speak right away. Do you remember the Orion Delta mission? She asked. Ethan nodded slowly. I try not to. We thought we stopped it, but we didn't. He leaned forward. Stopped what? The Vratek, she whispered. The name made the air feel colder. Ethan hadn't heard that word in years. It was something out of nightmares. A parasite. A mind with no body. It moved through thoughts, through dreams. They had found it during a mission deep in space. It had. Taken control of an entire research team. Only a few survived. You told me we sealed it, Ethan said. We did, but it was only sleeping, and now it's waking. Ethan stood up and walked to the small window. Outside, Titan's sky was full of thick clouds. He could barely see his own breath in the glass. He remembered the fear from that mission, the voices in his head, the dreams that didn't feel like dreams. He had spent years trying to forget them. Why now? Why after all this time? Naira stood too. Her coat moved like it was alive. Something disturbed it. A mining station near Jupiter. They dug too deep. They touched the core, and now it's reaching again. Ethan turned to her. So what do we do? We go back, she said, to where it started, to where we made the blood pact. He didn't answer right away. He felt old, tired, but something in her voice pulled him. She wasn't asking for help. She was offering trust, a rare thing. We can. Leave in the morning, Ethan said. The freighter still works. Naira nodded. She looked around the small cabin, her eyes scanning the walls, the tools, the photos. You lived alone a long time, she said. That was the plan. I can feel it in the air, she said. Your sadness. Your silence. Ethan smiled a little. You still read minds? Not always. But you're easy. He laughed softly. It was the first. Real laugh in weeks, maybe years. He poured more tea. They sat again, this time with less space between them. I lost people, he said. After the war. I didn't want to lose more. So I came here. You didn't lose me, Naira said. I thought I did. I promised I'd return. Ethan looked at her. There were many things he didn't understand about Naira. Her kind, her powers, her past. But one thing was clear. When she gave her word, she meant it. Later that night, Ethan went to check the ship. It had been years since he last flew it, but he kept it clean and ready. The engine started after only 2 tries. He smiled. Old machines, like old men, still had some fight left. He walked back inside. Nair was standing by the window, looking at the sky. Do you sleep? He asked. Not like humans. I dream with my eyes open. That sounds ... lonely. It is. They stood in silence. Then Naira said, Tomorrow, we face the past. You don't have to come. Ethan looked at her. You came for me. I won't let you face it alone. Naira gave a small smile. Her sharp teeth showed for a second, but it wasn't scary. It was honest. The next morning came slow. Titan's sun barely lit the sky. They packed light. A few tools, old weapons, and memory drives. Naira carried something strange, a silver sphere that pulsed with blue light. What is that? Ethan asked. A key, she said, to open what we locked. They boarded the ship. Ethan sat in the pilot's seat. Naira took the co-pilot's chair. It's been a long time, he said as he started the engines. Yes, she replied, but we're together again. That's what matters. The ship lifted into the dark sky. Below them, the cabin grew small. Titan faded behind them. Ahead, Jupiter waited. And somewhere near it, the past they tried to forget was waking up. Ethan looked over at Naira. Her eyes were closed, but her body was still. She was dreaming again, and so the journey began not just into space, but into memories, into fear, into something much deeper, something they would face together. The stars moved slowly outside the ship's window. Ethan watched them as he flew toward Jupiter. The control panel lights blinked calmly. It felt strange to fly again. His hands remembered every button, every switch. But his heart felt heavy. Old memories followed him like shadows. Nira sat beside him in silence. Her eyes were closed, but she was not asleep. She was listening, feeling. Her kind could sense things beyond human understanding. "We will reach Jupiter's orbit in 3 hours," Ethan said. Nyra opened her eyes. "We must land near the old temple ruins." "That is where the seal was placed." "You mean the monastery?" Ethan asked. "I thought that place was destroyed." "The surface was broken," she replied. "But the core is still there, hidden." Ethan remembered the place. It was a strange building carved into the rocks of Ganymede. A group of monks once lived there. They studied the stars and protected ancient alien knowledge. The last time he was there, fire and chaos ruled the sky. The ship passed through Jupiter's rings. Colorful storms flashed far below. The giant planet glowed like a god in the dark. Ethan looked at Nira. "How did you survive all these years?" He asked. Nyra looked out the window. Her voice was quiet. "After the battle, my ship was broken. I fell into the deep belt. Time is different there. I drifted. I healed. But I never forgot you. I thought you were gone. I know. But I promised I would return." The ship landed softly on Ganymede. The surface was cold and silent. Strange ice crystals covered the ground. In the distance, black rocks formed sharp hills. Ethan and Nira stepped outside. The wind was thin but sharp. They wore simple suits for protection. Nira walked ahead, her steps light and graceful. "This way," she said. They reached the ruins after half an hour. Broken stone walls and fallen towers greeted them. The place looked dead, but Nira stopped near a cracked pillar and placed her hand on it. Blue light flowed from her fingers. The ground shook. A hidden door opened below the stone. Stairs led down into the dark. "Still works," Ethan said. "The old ways never die." Nira replied. They moved down the stairs. The air grew colder. Lights in the wall flickered on, one by one, as they walked. The tunnel ended in a large round room. Strange markings covered the walls. At the center stood a small stone table with a silver bowl. "This is the chamber of the bond," Nira said. Ethan stepped forward. The bowl glowed faintly. "You said we made a pact here," he said. Nira nodded. "Our blood was mixed in that bowl. It created a seal that locked the Vrea tech in the dream space. But the seal is breaking. We must bond again." Ethan looked at her. "What does that mean?" Nira walked closer. "It means our minds must join. It is the only way to repair the seal. But it comes with risk. You will see my memories. I will see yours. There is no hiding." Ethan thought for a long moment. He looked at the bowl. He looked at Nira. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed something else, fear, hope, and something deeper. "I trust you," he said. Nyr. They took a small knife from her coat. She cut her hand gently. Thick, dark red blood dropped into the bowl. Then she handed the knife to Ethan. He took a deep breath and cut his palm. His blood was lighter, bright red. It joined hers in the bowl. The liquid swirled. Light rose from it and wrapped around them. Ethan gasped. Images flooded his mind. Nira's memories, her world of shadows and stars, her training, her pain, her loneliness. She saw his memories too, his battles, his fears, his quiet life on Titan. Their thoughts joined. Their hearts beat as one. Then the light faded. They stood still for a moment, breathing slowly. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked. "Yes," Nira said. "The bond is stronger now. The seal will hold." Suddenly the room shook. A deep sound echoed from the walls. "What was that?" Ethan asked. Nyr. A single quote's S face turned serious. "They know. The Vrea tech can feel us. They are close. Ethan grabbed his old weapon from his belt. Then we finish this. Together, Naira nodded. Her eyes glowed brighter. Together. They turned back toward the stairs. The fight was not over. But now they were ready. Not as soldier and alien, but as one mind, one memory dot as friends who had faced death and returned to finish what they started. The ground above them shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling of the old temple. Ethan looked up, holding his weapon tight. Naira stood beside him, her hand glowing with soft red light. The bond they had just formed still pulsed in both of them. It gave Ethan strength, but also a strange feeling in his chest, like he was part of something much bigger now. They moved up the stone stairs slowly. The air felt heavier with each step. The moment they reached the surface, the sky had changed. A strange fog covered the land, thick and dark. The stars were gone, and the ice on the ground cracked under their boots. This is not just weather, Ethan said. No, Naira replied. It's them. The Vrawtak are spreading their shadow. They twist the world around them. They change space and time. Ethan looked around. The ruins were now darker than before. Shapes moved in the fog quick, small and silent. He raised his weapon. Are they close? Naira nodded. Too close. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the silence, like metal scraping on stone. Ethan turned and saw a figure crawling out of the fog. It looked human at first, but its face was twisted, eyes black, mouth full of sharp teeth. Its skin was gray, and it moved in jerks like a puppet on strings. It's one of the infected, Naira said. The creature let out a screech and ran toward them. Ethan fired. The shot hit its chest, and it fell. But more were coming. Shadows moved fast in the fog, surrounding the ruins. We can't fight them all, Ethan said. We don't need to, Naira replied. We must reach the old Cum Tower. It's on the high ridge. From there, we can send a warning. They ran. The ground shook again, but they didn't stop. The fog followed them, twisting into shapes, whispering in voices that sounded like lost friends. Ethan shook his head. Don't listen to the fog, Naira warned. It lies. They climbed the ridge quickly. The wind blew harder up here, pushing the fog away a little. The Cum Tower stood tall, broken in places but still strong. Its antenna reached for the sky like a metal tree. Inside the tower, the air was stale. Ethan found an old terminal and wiped the dust away. The screen flickered to life. Naira stood beside him, placing her hand on the machine. Her power flowed into it. Lights blinked. Systems woke up. Can we send a signal? Ethan asked. Yes, but not far. The Vrawtak are jamming space. I can push through, but only for a few seconds. Ethan typed quickly. He sent a short message to the old defense network. Vrawtak returning. Ganymede compromise. Need help. Naira used her energy to boost the signal. The tower shook and sparks flew. Then the screen went dark. Did it work? Ethan asked. I don't know, but we had to try. A loud noise came from below. The infected had found them. The door burst open and dark shapes rushed in. Ethan fired again and again. Naira moved like wind, her hands glowing as she struck the creatures with bursts of red light. But there were too many. We need to leave, Ethan shouted. Naira opened a small device in her coat. A blue orb floated out and expanded into a door of light. Go, she said. They jumped through the portal just as the infected filled the room. The light closed behind them. They landed inside a small, dark chamber. The walls were round and smooth. Symbols glowed gently. Ethan looked around. Where are we? A safe room, Naira said. Built long ago by my people. Hidden in the moon's crust. The Vrawtak cannot see inside. Ethan sat down, breathing hard. That was close. Naira sat beside him. Her eyes were tired. They are stronger than before. And more clever. Ethan looked at her. You said this started long ago. What did we miss? Naira closed her eyes. There is more than one Vrawtak mind. We sealed one, but others remained. Now they are joining, becoming one. Ethan stayed silent for a moment. What can we do? Naira opened her eyes. There's one place left, a hidden ship in the core sea of Europa. It holds the last key. We must reach it before they do. Ethan nodded. Then we keep going. Naira smiled faintly. You're still the same. Brave. He gave a small laugh. I'm just too stubborn to quit. Outside the safe room, the moon trembled. The war was coming. But inside, two old friends prepared for one last mission together. The walls of the safe room glowed with soft blue light. Ethan leaned against the cold surface, his breath slowly calming. Naira sat nearby, her eyes closed, focusing her energy. Even in silence, Ethan could feel her thoughts. The bond between them was growing stronger. How far is Europa? Ethan asked. Nyra opened her eyes. Not far in space, but the path is not simple. The Vratak watch the skies. They know we are moving. Ethan stood and stretched his arms. His body ached, but he was ready. What's on Europa? That's so important? Naira looked serious. There's a ship hidden beneath the ice. My people placed it there long ago. It holds a crystal pure energy, the last piece of the ancient key. We can use it to seal the Vratak forever. Ethan nodded. Then we better move fast. They stepped back into the ship. It had some damage from the last battle, but it still worked. Ethan checked the controls while Nira repaired parts of the engine with her glowing touch. Ready, Ethan said. Nyra took her seat beside him. Let's go. The ship lifted off. As they flew away from Ganymede, the fog slowly disappeared. Stars came back into view. But danger still followed them. They flew in silence for a while. Then Ethan looked at Naira. Do you ever miss your home? Yes. Nyra looked out the window. Every day, but it is gone now. Burned in the first Galactic War. That's why I stayed in this galaxy. To make sure no other world ends like mine. Ethan didn't know what to say. He simply nodded. Some pain had no words. Soon, Europa appeared ahead. The moon was covered in bright ice. Underneath, a liquid. Ocean moved. Ethan guided the ship down gently. They landed near a deep frozen crack. Naira stood and opened the hatch. We go down through the ice. The ship is hidden in a pocket sea. Follow me. They stepped outside. The wind was sharp and fast. Naira raised her hand and created a small tunnel using energy. The ice melted in a perfect circle, revealing a path. They climbed down into the tunnel. After a long climb, they reached an underground cave. The water there glowed faintly. In the middle of the cave, a ship rested old and quiet. It looked like it had been sleeping for centuries. This is it, Naira said. Ethan walked around the strange ship. Its design was smooth, almost like bone. No clear doors or engines, but it felt alive. How do we get inside? He asked. Nyra walked to the center and placed both hands on the ship. Her red eyes glowed. Slowly, the ship opened. A soft light welcomed them. Inside, the ship was quiet and warm. The walls pulsed with energy. In the middle, a floating crystal shined with white light. That's the key? Ethan asked. Yes, Naira replied. With this, we can finish the seal. But it must be done in the heart of the Vratak hive. Before Ethan could respond, a loud sound echoed from the ice above. The ship shook. They followed us, Ethan said. Nyra grabbed the crystal. We need to leave now. They rushed out of the ship and back into the ice tunnel. Above them, the infected were breaking through. Black shapes dropped down, screeching. Ethan fired his weapon while Nira used her power to push the creatures back. But there were too many. Hold them. She shouted. I'll open a portal. She threw the crystal into the air. It floated and began to spin. A bright light burst from it, forming a glowing doorway. Go through, Naira said. Ethan jumped through the light. Naira followed a second later. The infected screamed behind them, but the portal closed just in time. They landed hard on metal. When Ethan opened his eyes, he saw they were inside a space station. "Where are we?" he asked. Naira stood, holding the crystal close. "The edge of the Vradok Hive. This place was built long ago to study them. Now it will be our final battleground." Ethan stood slowly. He looked around at the quiet halls of the station. "Then let's end this," he said. Naira gave him a small nod. Her eyes burned brighter now. "Together," she said. Outside the station, the black fog of the Vradok began to gather. But inside, two old friends stood ready, one human, one alien dot, and both unwilling to let the galaxy fall. The space station was cold and silent. Ethan and Naira walked down a long metal hallway. Lights flickered above them. The place had not been used in many years. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. Ethan held his weapon close. Naira walked beside him, carrying the crystal. It glowed with soft white light. Their steps echoed around them. "This place gives me chills," Ethan said. "It was made by those who fought the Vradok before us," Naira replied. "But they failed. Why? They did not trust each other. Fear broke them apart." Ethan looked at her. "But we're still together." Naira gave a small smile. "Yes, that is our strength." They reached the central chamber. The room was large, with a round ceiling and strange machines along the walls. In the center was a platform with a circle of markings. "This is the core," Naira said. "This is where we place the crystal." Ethan stepped forward. He placed his hand on the platform. It was cold and smooth. Naira joined him and held the crystal high. "Once we place this, the seal will begin. But they will feel it. They will come. Then we stand our ground," Ethan said. Naira placed the crystal on the platform. It sank into the circle and began to spin. Light shot up into the air. "Symbols on!" The walls lit up. A deep sound filled the room, like an old song being played again. Ethan watched as the machines came alive. But then he felt it a cold wind, even though there was no air movement. "They're here," Naira said. The walls began to shake. Screeches echoed from the hallway. Shadows poured into the room. The infected had come. Ethan raised his weapon. "Let's do this." He fired at the first creature. It fell, but more came. Naira moved like a storm, her hands glowing with red light. She sent waves of energy at the creatures, burning them to ash. But there were so many. Ethan fought hard, but he was pushed back. A creature leapt at him. Naira struck it down before it reached him. "Stay close," she shouted. They moved together, covering each other. The bond between them helped them feel each other's movements. They fought as one. The crystal in the center spun faster. The light grew stronger. The station shook harder. Pieces of the ceiling began to fall. Ethan fired until his weapon ran dry. He grabbed a metal pipe and kept fighting. Blood ran down his arm, but he didn't stop. Naira screamed, and her power exploded. A wave of red energy pushed the creatures back, but her body shook. She was getting weaker. "The seal is almost ready," she said. The ground cracked. A huge shape rose from the hallway. It was different from the others. Taller, darker, with long arms and glowing eyes. "That's one of the Vradok mines," Naira said. "We must destroy it, or the seal will break." Ethan rushed forward. He swung the pipe at the creature, but it caught it and threw him across the room. He hit the wall hard. Naira stood between the creature and the crystal. She held her arms out, forming a shield of light. "You will not win," she said. The creature screamed and charged. Naira met it with all her strength. They clashed in the center of the room. The light from the crystal flared. Ethan stood, blood on his face. He ran to the platform. "What can I do?" he shouted. Naira looked at him, her eyes full of pain. "Join me. One last time." He placed his hand on the crystal. A shock ran through him. Their bond opened fully. He felt her mind, her heart, her memories. She felt his dot together. They pushed their energy into the crystal. The light turned white-hot. The creature screamed. The seal activated. A wave of power filled the room. The infected were pulled into the light, one by one, vanishing like smoke. The large creature tried to run, but it too was caught. It reached out with one last scream. Then it was gone. Silence filled the room. The crystal floated gently. The seal was complete. Ethan fell to his knees. Naira dropped beside him. Is it over? He asked. Nyra smiled weakly. Yes, for now. They sat there in the quiet room, the light from the crystal warming their skin. The war was over. But the cost was heavy. Ethan looked at Naira. You saved me again. We saved each other, she said. He smiled. Old friends. Always. She nodded. Always. And as the space station drifted above the frozen moon, two souls rested in peace, knowing they had done what no one else could, together. The space station was quiet. The battle was over. The light from the crystal in the center of the room still glowed softly. It filled the air with warmth and peace. Ethan sat beside Naira. His body was tired, and his arms ached from the fight. His clothes were torn, and there was dry blood on his face. But he was alive. She was alive. And the Vratek were gone for a long time. They didn't speak. They just sat together in the silence, breathing slowly. We did it, Ethan said at. Last. Nyra looked at him and nodded. The seal will hold. Their voices are gone. Ethan leaned back against the wall. I never thought I would see peace again. Not after everything. Nira looked around the room. This place was once full of fear. Now it is quiet. That is a gift. They stayed there for a while longer. Outside the station, the stars were shining again. The darkness that had covered them was gone. The galaxy felt still. Later, they moved to a small room in the station that still had power. Ethan found a storage locker with old supplies. He made warm drinks using a small heater. They sat across from each other, cups in hand. What happens? Now? Ethan asked. Nyra looked into her cup. The Vratek are sealed, but the galaxy is still wide, still full of danger. Do you plan to fight again? She shook her head slowly. Not now. I need rest. I need to feel the stars again. Without fear. Ethan smiled. That sounds nice. What about you? She asked. He thought for a moment. I left Earth a long time ago. I lived in silence. But now. I think I want to live again. Really live. Naira looked at him with calm eyes. You are strong, Ethan, but you are also kind. That is rare. He gave a small laugh. I had a good teacher. They finished their drinks and stood. The ship they came in still waited outside, damaged, but fixable. Together, they worked for hours repairing it. They didn't speak much, but the silence was easy. After the ship was ready, they stood at the airlock. Nira looked back at the station. Will anyone come here again? Ethan asked. Maybe one day, she said. When people are ready to learn. They entered the ship. The doors closed behind them, and the engines hummed softly. Ethan took the pilot's seat. Naira sat beside him. Where to? He asked. Nyra looked at the stars. Anywhere. As long as it's far from war. Ethan smiled. I think I know a place. The ship lifted off. The station grew smaller behind them. Ahead, the stars waited. Days passed. They traveled slowly through quiet space. No alarms, no battles. Just stars and silence. They landed on a green moon, far from any known system. It was peaceful. The sky was blue, and the grass was soft under their feet. Small creatures ran through. The trees. A river flowed nearby. Ethan built a small home using parts from the ship. Naira helped, using her energy to shape stones and light. It was not much, but it was enough. They lived simply. Days filled with calm work and quiet talks. At night, they watched the stars and shared stories. Some stories were happy. Some were painful. but they shared them all. One evening, Ethan sat by the river. Nira joined him. "Do you miss your world?" he asked. "I do," she said. "But this place, it feels like home." Ethan looked at her. "I'm glad you came for me." She nodded. "I never forgot you." "I never could," he smiled. "I think I was waiting for you, even when I didn't know it." They sat in silence, watching the stars. Time passed, seasons changed. The world around them bloomed and rested, then bloomed again. Ethan grew older. His hair turned gray, and his steps slowed. But Nira stayed the same. Her kind aged differently. Still, she stayed with him. She took care of him when he was tired, and he made her laugh when the days felt too quiet. On one quiet morning, Ethan sat in his chair watching the sunrise. Nira stood beside him. "Thank you," he said softly, "for everything." She took his hand. "You gave me something I thought I had lost. Hope." He smiled and closed his eyes. Later, she sat alone by the river. The wind moved gently through the trees. She looked up at the sky. "I will see you again, old friend," she whispered. And somewhere, beyond the stars, in a place where memories live forever, Ethan waited with a smile. Together, always.